everybody, DJ from Pro Action here. I am at Daytona Bike Week in 2021. I'm at Destination Daytona. So you kind of wonder sometimes, when you walk by our booth and you see us standing here, you see the bike sitting around, what happens here, what goes on? Well, let's say you want to get a pair of shocks. I had a gentleman come up to me today, brought me a beautiful Street Glide. We talked for a little bit about his needs, what he weighed, what his riding style was, whether he was aggressive, whether he just kind of rode, whether he cruised along. We decided that his 12-inch shocks that were on there were nice, but we were going to go up an inch. He wanted to go up to an inch to 13. He didn't want to drag his boards quite as much, want a little nicer ride, a little more travel. So what we do is we get a set of shocks for him. We got his weight. His weight was 225 pounds. We picked out the right set of springs for him. We're going to go with a 13-inch shock, and now our 13s, we have 110 pound, 120 pound, 130 pound, and 140 pound spring to choose from. So we get the rider weight, the passenger weight, how often you guys ride two up, if you have a tour pack, what you carry in your bags, big speakers, big amps, all that kind of thing. And then we tailor your springs to your weight and to your riding style. So in these, we have a set of 130 pound springs for the gentleman at 225 pounds. We're going to set the preload on them. I already measured this one. We have 3/8 preload on this one. So we took the spring, which is 7 inches or 8 inches long, and we squeezed it down 3/8 of an inch. So we have 3/8 of an inch in preload. Now this one was a 7/16. So in this, we just need to go one turn. We're going to tighten that up one turn. That'll put us the length of the shock between the two collars at 3/8. We're going to tighten up the collar here. We're going to double check the clicks. The right shock's going to be at 5 to start out. The left shock, the clicker is going to be at 0. So from here, we're going to mount him up on his bike. Then we're going to turn him loose for a test ride. All right, so we set up our shocks for a 225 pound rider on a Street Glide. We're going to go up an inch from a 12-inch shock to a 13-inch shock. So right now what we need to do is we're going to take the stock shock off. So grab yourself a ratchet, 3/4 inch socket on the end. Well, we're going to take off the take the stock ones. Just the 2 bolts, top and bottom. See, we already have the bike up in the air. All right, once you get the stock one off, keep the bolts. As you can see, 12-inch. We're going to replace this with this longer 13-inch. So it's going to give us an extra 1 inch of travel over the 12s. And a lot more features for adjustability. We have a spring adjustment here, free bleed adjustment at the bottom. So what you're going to do is take your stock bolts. We'll send you some spacers with them. So you'll put one spacer first on the bolt, the short side of the collar going towards the shock. The next one you'll put on the other side, so we're sandwiching the shock in there, so that bolt will move around a little bit in there. First put on your top, screw in your top bolt. Now on these, is distinguished from right to left, there's a little chrome bolt on the top. That's where we fill it with nitrogen. We want the sticker to face out. We want the little chrome nitrogen nub to face towards the back. So once you get your bolt started, do the same thing with the bottom. Spacer first, then the shock, then the inner spacer. Now we went with an inch longer shock. We're gonna have to raise the bike up in the air a little bit. Line your bolts up. Once you get them lined up, get everything started. So once you get it, tighten everything up real nice. Nice and snug. Now once you get this side, go ahead over. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just repeat the process. Now, you get to the other side, you put your shock on, you find out that it's not quite even from side to side. A lot of times Harley has a little bit of variance in their frame. The shocks are the same length. The frame will sometimes have a little bit of stretch to it. So at that point, a lot of times you have to put the throttle side on first, then put a little bit of weight in the tire to bring the swing arm up, and then put this one on second, just so you can line everything up. That's a Harley issue. That's when they weld the frame. Sometimes it draws a little bit. Very common. It's no big deal. So don't worry about that for you. All right, so at this point, we got this clutch side on. We have everything adjusted. We have the clicker adjusted. We have the spring adjusted where we think it'll work best for the gentleman. Next thing, we're going to put the other side on. Then as soon as he comes back, we're going to send him out for a test ride. All right, we have the shocks mounted up. We have them set up for Tom for his weight, his height, his riding ability, how often he rides two up. Everything's mounted up. We're going to turn him loose and send him on a test ride. We'll see what he has to say when he comes back. At that point, we'll make a couple adjustments, maybe send him out a second time, then go from there. So, all right, let's send him out.
Hey, we finally found the truck.
Okay, so Tom came back from his first test ride. Tom, what'd you think of it? This is set up out of the box, kind of our initial settings where we thought it worked good for him. Now we're gonna do a little fine tuning if we need to. So Tom, what'd you think?
It was pretty smooth, a little bit busy, but overall better than for sure what I had.
Okay, so what that's telling me is we do a couple different things here. So I'll take what Tom has to say about the little busyness. That tells me it's just a little bit stiff on the top. And what else we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the bumper on the shock. That bumper is showing me that he has this much travel underneath that bumper that he hasn't used. So he's using, you know, out of the 3.5 inches of travel he has, he's probably only using 3. So we got another 1/2 inch of shock here to give him. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna loosen this up a little bit. We're gonna take 1 turn out of each spring. We're gonna soften it up. That's gonna let him use full travel. That's gonna free it up a little bit at the top. That's gonna take that busyness away that he was talking about and give it a little nicer ride, a little plusher ride. We're gonna loosen the top Allen lock. Then we're gonna go counterclockwise, 1 turn. So we're extending the spring. We're gonna make it softer. So we'll do it on the throttle side. Snug everything back up. We're gonna do the same thing on the clutch side. Basically just loosen that Allen a little bit. We're gonna go 1 turn counterclockwise. We're gonna lock it back down. Okay, so we loosened each spring up 1 turn on each side. That's gonna make it a little softer for him. That's gonna let him get down into travel a little more, kind of soften things up on top, take away that busyness. If you look underneath the bumper, we're showing about a 1/2 inch of chrome shaft left. That's the travel we're not using. So loosening the spring's gonna let him use a little more of that travel. So what we'll do is we'll take that bumper, we'll push it back up towards the top. We loosen the springs, and I'm gonna take 1 click on the throttle side, 1 click counterclockwise to make it softer on the free bleed. So right now we're clear out, back in 5 clicks. So I'm gonna go from 5 to 4. That's gonna let a little more oil go bypass the piston and go through the free bleed. That's gonna make it a little bit softer, a little bit slower in the rebound. So at this point, we need to get Tom back, get his butt on that seat, and head him out for another test ride. Okay, so Tom came back from his second test ride. He went out the first time. He came back. We looked at his bumpers. We looked at a couple gauges. What we need to do, we took his opinion of the ride. We changed everything around a little bit. So Tom, how was it this time?
It was good. It's smooth. I can't wait to do the fronts.
Yeah, a lot of times once you do the rear, you start focusing on the front a little more. It starts bringing out the flaws in the front. So how was it the corners? Did it squat nice for you? Kind of bring you around the corners?
Yeah, it just settles into the corner. Depending on how fast you go down the corner, it just kind of settles in and stays there.
Fine to me.
Better than the first time?
Yep.
If you want to be a happy customer like Tom, you can't make it out to a rally, check us out at www.pro-action.com. Check us out on social media or give us a call at the shop. We're more than happy to take the time on the phone with you, get all your information, and get a great set of shocks headed your way.